Welcome everyone. This was probably the biggest challenge I've had so far as a design. Because like I said in the video, I am not urban and I'm certainly not funky. So the idea of coming up with something along those lines, and even the description is, create a piece of art that basically describes what brings a city to life. And the more I thought about this is, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, I'm getting more cynical, the more of life that I spend, it feels like the more of life I spend at work. So I think we all can relate to, here we have a character who is sitting on 275 in traffic, stopped, bored, with his hands on the steering wheel. And what we've got is, overhead we've got a sign that says delayed, we've got Tampa in the background, and so forth and so on. The mannequin is a piece that I've been using for actually the last 15 years in various art pieces as a representative of the common man, something that we are all, to get all artsy for a moment too, we are all just these characters that are here and we're not always of our own free will and so forth and so on. But I just wanted to create a piece that was an expression of, this is how a city really functions. It might not be the happiest of things, I know it's not, but that's where my mind was when I was putting this piece together.
A couple things around?
Sure. Well, the first thing that struck me, whether intentional or not, I appreciated that the character appears to be in an urban funk.
Mm-hmm.
In a completely different way than we ever intended.
Completely.
When we came up with the title, I never had this in mind. And one of the things I like about the way that we have these descriptions is that it's open for you guys to interpret how you want to. And I think the fact that you took this to a place that made sense to you and was something that you understood and really vibed with, I think that's great. I like the composition of the piece. I feel like it could use a bit more finish. It kind of looks like a sketch, I mean, not like a rough sketch, but not quite a finished, gonna go present it drawing. But that aside, I really like it. I think it could use a little polish, but I'm excited with where this went.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I want to applaud your use of imagery here, where you figured out a way to describe people as a whole with your mannequin. I think that's interesting that this is a recurring theme. Thanks for letting us know that too, that this is something that you've used in many pieces. But I think it works really well here to have one direct image describing a body of people in a generic way. I really liked that. And I do have to agree with Carl. I could see it needing a little bit more finished work. And also just want to note, and I like how you're using lots of different mediums to throughout this whole competition, and we were never quite sure exactly what we're going to see from you. And we've seen actual animation, video, more like Photoshop, and more fine art, sketch. It's interesting. One thing that just to nitpick, the delay being type, that's the first thing that I see before I even see the mannequin. Mm-hmm. And I wish that could be, it's a nitpick, I know, I wish that could be a little bit more subtle. It's very in my face. But overall, good job.
Okay, respond to that. This was by far the hardest concept, and us guys were talking backstage, and for all of us this has been the hardest one for us to get our hands around. And I, over the last week, basically went through 3 other ideas before coming to this one, all of which basically had the same problems I've been dealing with in the past, is grander ideas that I can pull off in a short amount of time. So this is what could get done within the deadline. Another 6 hours and I would consider this probably a finished piece. As far as the reflection goes, it's a neat thing because I'm a technical geek. So if light is strong enough that you can see a reflection like this, you would not be able to see anything on the inside because everything would be so dark in contrast, and vice versa. And so what I did was just within the time frame, so it would be better to see both than not see either. So that's why I went with the way it is, and I can always go back and lighten it up and touch it up and so forth.
have one further comment. I think you have made great strides in that personal challenge, I guess, that you took on to try and simplify your thought process and simplify what you put together for us. I just wanted to note that. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with what you've delivered. When we first evaluated your portfolio in the beginning, we saw one type of artist, and every time you're brought in here, it says animator, and everyone has this expectation that you're going to see animation. And I'm very pleased to say that we've seen something that looks like an Oliver Stone sort of spliced video that was very cool. We've seen 3D models, we've seen animations, we've seen now a pencil drawing. The breadth that you've presented is just about as great as I've seen from any of the contestants in here, and it personally goes away a good distance for me in my favor for you as a contestant, because I like to see that breadth. I like to see that we're not just sticking to what we know best. When it comes to the drawing, personally, because I've done a lot of drawings as well, it's hard to make pencil ever look finished, because it's pencil. It's at best it's going to look 45% gray. So I sympathize with you a little bit. I still see what Kate and Carl are talking about. It just kind of lacks that presence. But I like it, and compared to a lot of the fine art pieces I've seen throughout this competition, I think this is probably the strongest. And in addition to that, I want to say that you certainly didn't deal yourself anything less than a full bag of challenges with the composition you've chosen. You've got refractions going on in the glass and reflections. You've got the wood grain. You've got things up close in your field of view and things in the distance. It's a pretty challenging composition, and I think you've pulled it off very well. So overall, I'm quite pleased, and I'm interested to see how many other people are capable of breaking outside their comfort zone this week as much as you have.
I just want to add one more thing. Your presentation has come a million miles since we started, and you just continue to improve with that. That said, you kind of unsold me just a little bit, because I thought that the wood grain of the person was a perfect representation for the stagnant feel of being stuck in that rush hour traffic. Mm-hmm. Whereas knowing that it's just a common character that you use is a little less poignant to me.
It is, and it's not all at the same time. So that's a long story. I can bore you for 45 minutes with that one.